good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mancunian Way and another episode of Blues Down Under, episode number 7. I'm your host, Patrick, joined by my two esteemed fellow Down Under Blues in Rich and Alan. Good evening to you, gentlemen. How are you doing?
All right, good.
Good evening. Good evening.
It's all right. Now, Alan, you might want to tell the folks, like, you sure that you're trying to look as comfortable as possible, but yeah, obviously some people have a bit more of an earlier curfew than others, but obviously you're just trying to rationalise your sleep patterns before a rather nasty kickoff time again.
Yeah, well, our kickoff tonight is 2 a.m. So at 1:45 I'll be going upstairs to watch the game. So what I usually do, because I've got work in the morning and it's a big day tomorrow work-wise, I go to bed early, set the alarm to get up and watch the game. So this is my usual routine of going to bed early and having a good kip to get enough sleep before tomorrow day's work.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's what usually happens over in Australia.
Just shows, mate. It can be on the other side. It can be on the other side of the world, and we still get terrible kickoff times. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. All is well with you, Rich?
Yeah. I'm planning to just watch it in the morning. I can't quite bring myself to get up at 2 a.m. for a World Club Cup game.
Yes. Mickey Mouse.
Premier League.
I'm a bit torn. I'm going to try and see how long we can soldier on for, and then we'll take it from there anyway.
Premier League, I get up in the middle of the night. Europe, you don't have to because they're always night games, so it's just getting up early. But yeah, I don't think I can quite bring myself to do it for the Club World Cup. But
yeah, well, I think we'll try and dissect. We'll try and dissect a little bit about why that. Obviously, I mean, we're not going to turn around and say that we're certainly experts anyway. But hopefully, some people in the chat will certainly be able to help us out if they know anything about why Dad. You know, the other thing I know is that they're going to fit. You know, I think all Moroccan football is fantastic club atmosphere. But you know, we'll try and see what else we can sort of find out about this game anyway, because you know it's only a few hours away. But obviously, the big talk will be the fixtures. But before we do, we'll just quickly see who's in the chat this evening. Got FIFA's in the building. It's good to see you, mate. His prediction is 15-0 win today with Foden with half a dozen GA. So, yeah, big up, mate. I hope you put a tenner on that as well because, yeah, you'll be, you know, I hope you can put a nice donation towards your charity, by the way, too, mate. So that's good. Mingyu Wong's in the building. Good evening to you, mate. Thank you very much. Yep, of course, you get the thumbs up, especially if you're new in here. Any support is appreciated as well. Matches live on Channel 5 and DAZN, correct? Yep, and it's pretty much the same here too. DAZN and KO if you have it as well. CM's in the building. Hello, sir. Good to hear and see from you.
Pat, it's on any Fox as well. It's just on. There's a Club World Cup channel devoted to it on Fox.
There you go. Aiden's in the building. Banana new captain. Personally, would gave it to Diaz. Well, he is part of the team anyway, so they'll be sharing the loads anyway. But it's something we could probably talk about during the show as well too, because I think the captaincy, some of us are a little bit have mixed reviews in terms of game time. Never mind the captain's armband itself, but that's something we'll get onto anyway.
Oh no, I think the thing on that is Pep's comments. Pep made some very strident comments on it today, and I think they're probably the comment of interest. He made it very clear. He was very unhappy with what happened around the captaincy last season and that he was doing it now because he was being the big boss and having to step in. So quite clearly he was deeply unhappy with the choice of the players last year, or a couple of choices of the players. And I agree with him. Said, I'm making the call and these are the 4 captains.
Well, we'll get into further detail in a second. Sorry, Alan. I'll just quickly go through who else is here as well. Staffy Dave as well. Always good to see you, mate. Hello to everyone. Yes, hello to yourself as well. Looks like we've got a new somebody new watching in here. Hello, fellas. Greeting from Bahrain. Come on, City. Thank you very much. Watch Bronco. Always welcome, mate. And of course, everybody here, give him a warm welcome as well. Ethan as well. Hello. Yep. Kimo, I will wake up at 5 a.m. to watch and then pretend to work. It's a good idea, mate. I'm kind of thinking about doing the same, to be honest, if I can't lie. But yeah, it's you'll be watching from New Zealand, will that be right? Must be New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand or
3 hours ahead.
Pacific Island.
Yeah, or yeah, it could be that too. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, because Fiji would be about another hour ahead or something, wouldn't they? Yeah, could be.
Yeah, I think Fiji and Samoa, New Zealand, etc.
Brasso in the building. Your thoughts on Pedro Porro? I think we've had more than enough chances to either keep him or get him back anyway. And besides, too, mate, it's Tottenham, and as I've said, they want 50 million. Levy will want 50 million just for the sit down. So unfortunately, I think that ship sailed. But best of luck to him though, because I think he is a good player. But he'll have a better career elsewhere. And SOS is in the building. Good afternoon, good evening, good day to you, sir, as well. Thank you. Now, before we go on, because I know, Rich, you want to talk about the captaincy, and it's something good to talk about. I think probably the hot topic right now is obviously the release of the fixtures as well, which came out probably about 4 hours ago. And, of course, the big talk is obviously the start of the season, the end of the season, and the crazy congested fixtures we have basically from December through January. So, certainly lots to talk about there. Now, I'll just quickly go into details. I just wrote some basic dates down here because I think the most important ones we want to know is, who we played at the start of the season, who we could possibly win the league against, and when we play the derby. Now, Alan, I'm sure you've already got these dates memorised in your head. Now, we kick off our league season away at Wolves on the weekend of Saturday, the 16th of August. Closing the final game of the season, weirdly enough, is on Sunday, the 24th of May, 2026. And that is at home to Aston Villa. So much as we hope the league is wrapped up, let's also hope we're not in a position where we require 2 goals from Gundogan to win the bloody thing. So important other notes too. I've got the derby, Manchester derbies. The first one will be at home on the weekend of Saturday, the 13th of September. So I believe by match day 3, we would have already played United in the derby. The return fixture at Old Trafford is on Saturday, or the weekend of Saturday, the 17th of January. Also wanted to take note as well too, because I know some people dislike this, but it's also good to know in advance. We will have international breaks, 3 of them actually, between the start of the season and the end of the calendar year. So we'll have the first week of September, from the 1st to the 9th will be international break. Roughly around the second week of October, from the 6th to the 14th, and then roughly around the second week of November, from the 10th to the 18th, there will be international breaks. So I'll probably go in a bit more detail about the fixtures based around them. I'd also, if we get a chance, probably talk about the fixtures wrapped around the group stages of the Champions League, because there is going to be some congestion. There is going to be some pretty crazy, sort of, or very, very demanding sort of schedule on us, depending on who we play and when we play as well too. But it's nothing that we haven't overcome before. So, I'm glad the fixtures are out and there's things to look forward to, and we'll look forward to hopefully getting over for a few fixtures this season anyway. But Alan, I'll start with you first, mate. Was there any fixtures there that sort of stood out to you, or anything you're concerned about? Anything you're probably concerned about everything, but yeah, anyway.
Well, obviously, I mentioned the first game of the season, which is Wolves away, and then I looked at, because I've got a mate on the corner of the Spurs game, which is the second one, and then the Manchester derbies is obviously what I was looking for, because that matters to me, that we beat them twice in a year, which is something we haven't done for a while, and then the end of the season to see what the runner is, just in case we're involved in challenging for the title. We got Villa again, so that at home, last game's at home, which is good. So they're the ones I look for. So yeah, all good.
Looked like a pretty good end to the season as well too, when you think about it.
Yeah, I think it's been really kind to us. I think we've got that one tricky away game after February, after early Feb, and we go into the Liverpool game playing 3 relegation contenders in United, Tottenham, and Wolves. So we get a nice easy run into the Liverpool away game. No, the fixtures have been really kind, I think. I think to us, and good start.
What I was particularly interested in, and actually looked quite favourable for us, Rich, was the congested December schedule. Because I think when you looked at that, I don't think we come close to any top 6 teams in that period. Now, if you bear with me a second, I did have a look at it, and I thought if there was going to be a time for us to play probably play teams who would probably get a chance of getting a bit of a winning run, would be December. It'd be a real good momentum sort of shifter, especially, because sometimes we're known for having a little bit of a dip in November before we hit our stride, basically. last season obviously being the exception to that rule. But if you look at our December, and I'll gloss over sort of the first couple of weeks because most of them are sort of a week apart. But if you go from the 20th of December, we play West Ham at home. And then on the 27th, we play Forest away and then Sunderland away 3 days later on the Tuesday. And then we play Chelsea at home on the 3rd of January.
Yeah,
it's not too bad. There's wins there. Plus also, too, when we start playing bigger teams, there is a bit of a time in between as well. So it's not too, I'd say it's quite favourable when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you want to see, when things come out and you get the Champions League draw, you want to, you don't want to be going to Anfield when you've had an away game on a Wednesday night in Azerbaijan and they've been at home on the Tuesday against, Copenhagen or something. But apart from that, at the moment, it's a relatively easy end to the season. It's a relatively easy beginning, and they're the hardest times. So, I think for us, interestingly, again, we're playing Arsenal, I think, 5th game of the season. So, we've had a big game against Arsenal quite early on most years. But maybe this year, that favours
us. Arsenal's match day 5, mate. Yeah. So it's good to get that one out of the way.
We might actually start strong this year because with the Club World Cup, I think we're going to be... I think our problems are with the end of the season, not the beginning, unlike usually happens, because I think we'll be quite on our game quite early. But an 11-month season, it's got to take its toll when you get round to March, April time.
Yeah,
but,
I agree.
Again, we don't have that hard an ending, so that could be favourable.
Here's something interesting too. I forgot as well too. And big up, Ed. Good to see you, mate. AFCON as well. Don't forget. And Kimo's just given us the dates as well too. 21st of December to the 18th of January.
No.
This is a city squad where back then we sort of could have coped without Mahrez for a few weeks. Now you're talking about Mamouche, Aït-Nouri, and I know I'm missing one or two others. I'm just having a blank at the moment. It's been a long day, but
no, I think that's probably.
That's it.
Probably,
I mean, it's not. I mean, if they were to go on duty, it wouldn't necessarily be a situation of like, you remember Mancini days when Yaya went on AFCON and we just really struggled in midfield. I don't think we're in that situation anymore. But it's something that I'm sure we'll prepare for. I mean, if it was ever going to be an issue, we wouldn't have signed these players in the first place anyway. But there's something to factor in as well. And as we always think, whenever these players go away for international, there's no injuries or anything significant as well.
It's not great losing them, but then Liverpool lose Salah, and that's going to be a far bigger impact on that. Yeah, they're losing head and shoulders their best player. I'm trying to think. Arsenal probably lose a couple. I don't know if Partey's still going to be there, but he's pretty critical to them. So I think you've got. The two teams most likely to be our closest rivals are going to lose players, and Chelsea will lose 3 or 4, I think. So, it is what it is. It affects everyone, and we just got to have a big enough, strong enough squad to deal with it.
Yeah, I think so. It's just interesting things, and I think the other one I wanted to mention too was January, because again. Only up until it was only last season that we had this different dynamic in terms of how we had to sort of plan different competitions, because as you know, we've now got 8 group stage matches in the Champions League. 2 of them played in January. We always looked at January as a chance to probably have a little bit of a relief for the squad, because the FA Cup would come in. They obviously wouldn't be playing as many fixtures as they would, say, the second half of December. But now you've got these 2 midweek European games that we weren't used to for such a long time. And sometimes they can be a big factor in terms of who we play as well. I mean, we have to go to Old Trafford away.
We might not need those games if we play properly. We might not need those games. I mean, we lost. We won 1 game in 13, and we put ourselves in a position where we not only needed those games, but we needed we needed the extra 2 in February. It's our job to, make sure we put down 5 wins in 6 games, and if we do that, we'll be comfortably, in the top 16, and we'll have to worry potentially about, do we want home or away or whatever? But we're not going to be faffing around, in like we were last year. So it's up to us. If we want an easy January, we perform in October, November. If we want a hard January, we don't.
Yeah, understood. Yeah. Just no. I think at the end of the day too, these are sort of things that we have to look at when we get closer to the day as well too, because we don't know what the squads are going to be like. We don't know what the opposing teams are going to be like. So
everyone plays everyone home and away. It's such a nonsense. Clubs whinging about fixtures. The fact is, you start at the same time. Give or take 12 hours or something. If there's a game Friday night, you finish at exactly the same time, and you have to play 38 games in that period. So the reality is, if you've got a hard time somewhere, it means you've got an easy time somewhere. And so, clubs who whinge about how fixtures are unkind in a league where you play home and away, 19 teams in a finite period, they're just talking absolute nonsense. Yes, and the six of the teams are in the Champions League next year. So, they've got 6 clubs who have got to manage those fixtures in the Champions League. There's not likely to be anyone contending for the league who's not going to have exactly the same issue, and everyone's going to have the AFCON. I mean, yes, there'll be some teams who lose 4 and some lose 2, some lose 1, but I do think if you're making excuses in June for the season after, if AFTV are making excuses now, then it's no wonder Arsenal don't win titles, because they haven't got the mentality for it. I've long thought that some of our rivals have spent way too much time making up excuses about, this is the whole 115 thing. It's just other clubs making excuses because they're not prepared to put in the hard work and, run themselves as elite clubs. And so I hope all the other clubs are making excuses now, because, anyone who looks for excuses first, you can write them off.
All right, so was that a little bitty rant there?
Bit of a rant. Well, it was a bit.
It was a mini one, isn't it? Well, unfortunately, I'm about to raise the stakes and see if you're willing to double down, because Elliot's just asked about your thoughts between the links between Stones and Bayern. I
actually think for, taking my City hat off and looking at the interests of the player, there isn't a better club in the world that he could go to, because he'll have a manager who understands how to play a centre-back with injury problems. And I feel we might see John Stones lifting the Champions League if he goes there, because he would bring something to Bayern they haven't got. Managed properly, he will be the best centre-back in Europe next season. And, good luck, Johnny. If he lifts the Champions League, we might look like idiots. But and he'll find it easy there, because he'll have, assuming Sané stays, he'll have Sané, he'll have Harry Kane, who he's played 90 times for England with. So I think for Stones, if they're prepared to, give him the right deal, it's a brilliant move for the player. Terrible for City, but great for the player. And, I'd wish him luck. Wasn't a response Elliot was hoping for, I think, but yeah. No, I mean, it's that was well calculated. Good on you, mate. So yeah, but we used to know how to manage players like that, and we did it with Vinny, and Vinny knows what Vinny did in 2019 with a worse injury record than Stones. So Vinny will know, bring in Stones, play him when he's really needed, and he'll have the best centre back in European football playing for him. Well, he will if he's managed properly, and that's just the reality of it.
Rich, I totally and 100% agree with you. Yeah. I don't want to see John Stones go, I'll be honest with you. If he's managed correctly, he's our best centre-back by a mile. Yeah. By an absolute mile. Yeah, absolute mile. Yeah. Yeah. Like Vinny was. Vinny was. Well, yeah. Head and shoulders. Vinny was a different type. He was an organiser, though, wasn't he? Not just on the pitch, but off it as well. Yeah. Vinny was a complete. I had the fortunate experience of meeting the guy for a while, and he's very, very got an aura about him. He's got a lot about him that impresses you. And Johnny Stones is just pure class. So I hope he doesn't go.
As a centre back, I've never seen a better footballing centre back ever. And
but it's going to be up to him, isn't it? It's going to be up to him.
Yeah.
And have we got enough?
And see, are we prepared to manage him properly? If we're not, then he should go somewhere where he'll get managed properly. And and if he plays 8 games and they happen to be 2 Champions League semis, 2 Champions League quarters, a final, in DK Postal, and the title-winning game, and the 2 games against Borussia Dortmund, then it'll be the best bargain in history when Bayern win those games and top out.
We will see. We will see. It's not to us, that's the last thing.
We will.
Memberships have just come up here. Abdullah is in the building. Thank you very much, mate. Good seeing you on the show the other day as well, too. Thanks for the 4 months memberships. And Aidan Green in with 11 months, mate. Thank you very much for all your support and getting closer to 12 months as well. So big up to you. And, of course, that only means one thing. It's weird doing this on this side, but stand by 1 second. There you go.
More than you believe. More than you believe, I'm happy.
Don't think I'm ever going to get used to that. Anyway, let's move on to the captaincy because Samir's just put a comment in here. By the way, Bernardo, his captain our season is in huge jeopardy. I don't know, Samir. I mean, what's ever been a problem before with having captains in our team who have only got a season left in the season left at the club? Never a problem with Gundogan. Never a problem with Fernandinho.
Let me just say
never
something.
A problem with Vinny.
Never a problem with anything.
Let me just say something, please, if you don't mind. Football captaincy is not like cricket captaincy, where a cricket captain has to dictate the tactics and change the tactics during a game. That's down to the manager, right? He's there to lead, and there's enough players on our pitch that can lead. One in defence with Diaz, Bernardo could do it in midfield. So I'm sorry. I'm sick of the fans having a go at Bernardo. What the hell's going on? I watched the rerun of the Champions League semi-final the other day against Real Madrid when we won 4-0. And he was the best player on the pitch by an absolute mile that night. An absolute mile. So all these Bernardo haters, bugger off. Seriously.
Yeah, no, I tend to think, I think Bernardo's unique. You fans, that's quite funny. Yeah.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Not to Alan, but to us.
Yeah. We're a bit cheaper. Alan's quite a bit every month.
Oh, you sick freak.
Yeah. But on Bernardo, honestly, who is better at City to be captain? The bloke. I saw it this season with Kuznetsov when he had that first 4 minutes against Chelsea, and it was Bernardo, not any of the other players, partly because he speaks about 6 languages, but it was Bernardo who almost changed positions to move to a defensive midfield role to talk Kuznetsov through, chatted to him, calmed him down, changed the game. When the Scousers want us to give them a guard of honour, it's Bernardo who's there ignoring them, having a cup of tea. The bloke is a legend. And, he's a captain along with Ruben Dias, Rodri and Haaland. And I think there's 4 characters who really, are the right characters to be the leaders in the team. I think Gundo had his chance, he's gone. But I can't think of 4 better people to have at the club. And I think Pep is being very clear. He was very clear in his statement that he's taken on naming the captaincy group, and he was deeply unhappy about last year. So, I think Pep's showing who he thinks is the right personality to do the job. I don't think Bernardo will play every game, but, if I wanted someone running the team, it would be him, it would be Rodri, it would be Ruben Dias, and I think early
the responsibility will do him good as well.
Yeah, he's a leader, and he's the only bloke at the club who is a bit of a shithouse, and you need that. We've become too nice. We used to have a lot of, our players who really wound up opponents and really got people going, and we don't anymore. I mean, Rodri's capable of a bit of shithousery, but then he normally apologises afterwards. In case his nan tells him off or something. But yeah, I'm all for it, and I'm glad that we are. I'm glad Bernardo's staying because I thought he was our best player at the end of the season.
He was
in those key games where we got into the
Captaincy
Champions
team seems to obviously we heard about what Pep said, Rich, about he seems to have taken the initiative and chosen rather than allowing the team to do it because he just doesn't want another repeat of that. But do you look at, say, players like Bernardo and Erling Haaland? I don't know if I'd probably see them as like
don't put Martin's
left field options.
Yeah,
sorry.
Don't put Martin's nonsense up. Yeah,
you're right.
That's better.
Yeah, it's enough for the group chat on WhatsApp anyway. But I don't know because I look at maybe not Bernardo because the longevity means that he has a legacy and he's well known and well loved by the team and all that. But I think Erling Haaland choosing him in the captaincy as a bit of a left field because I think we're looking for a bit more sort of character in the captaincy in a way, if you know what I mean. Of all those four, you're probably not going to see them in the headlines for the wrong reasons. The closest might be Ruben Dias because they might tie in some silly shit with Maya Jama. But Ruben's anyway. I don't see him doing anything.
Ruben's teetotal and likes to get to bed at 8 o'clock because he wants to be absolutely perfect. So,
I think I go to bed at 8 o'clock where he's with at the moment. That's for certain.
But no, So I think, and I bet you, if you asked Pep over a glass of wine when he retires at City, who his most important player was, who was the first name on his team sheet, I would wager he'd probably say Bernardo ahead of De Bruyne, ahead of some of the others. So I think Pep's really showing what he thinks, and people can argue with the greatest manager in football history if they want, but I'm usually going to back the greatest manager in football history against any of us and our opinions.
Alan, what do you say about sort of the conflicting arguments I think a lot of the fan base have at the moment, where a lot of them are at the belief of, well, if Bernardo's got the captain's armband, then does that mean he's going to be taking game time possibly away from maybe our new signings, from maybe a Cherky, for example?
No.
Do you see anything like that happening, or do you see it sort of similar?
We've got four captains. Yeah, 4 captains, right, who are all going to get a go as captain when the time is right and when Pep will pick the team. Bernardo last season was in the side more than he wasn't. I think everyone must agree with that because Pep trusts him. And I'll be honest with you, he hasn't got the legs that he used to have. So if he plays more in the middle, he's fine. He's probably not on the outside right. He's playing on the right hand side. He hasn't got the legs to get up and down. But you tell me when Bernardo's ever been quick. Ever. He's never been quick. He hasn't. So what people are going on about, I do not know. The fans that are jumping on his back, they're not fuck off as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing wrong with him. He has been a legend at the club, has won us a lot of trophies. Game against Madrid, the game against Madrid at home, he absolutely destroyed Madrid. Yeah, Real Madrid. He destroyed them. And he did. He was brilliant that day.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, if there was a dip in form in the first half of the season last year for Bernardo, it was because no player at his level had played as many games outfield as he had in a top European side. He was just playing 60 games a season for 5 years. Chuck on another 5 or 10 for Portugal, where he's the first name on the team sheet, ahead of Ronaldo. And, he played 70 games. And we wonder why, You play a player plays 350 games in 5 years, or 5.5 years. You wonder why his form drops a bit. No one's done that.
When you think about it too, like what's the role that we probably know Bernardo for the most at the certainly over the last season or two. You talk about playing off the right wing too, but you also talk about, especially last season, playing that sort of recovery role as like an extra player to track back, work with the number 6, or just create like a proxy pivot in a way, sort of thing. You know what I mean? And if he continues doing that as a captain, that's exactly what you want. You want a captain that's going to cover every blade of grass over 90 minutes. And then at the same time, whenever there's a foul or he needs to intervene over something, he's going to be there in a flash.
Tactical. Who else? Look at Pep's era, and we've had Bernardo playing almost like a pivot alongside Rodri. We've had him playing at fullback. We've had him playing false 9. We've had him playing out wide. We have just used him as glue all over the pitch. And it's why, and I said, and some people thought it was ridiculous, that when it comes down to it, I think Bernardo will have been a more important player in this era than De Bruyne. Because I think De Bruyne played one role, he played it really well. He's had a lot of injuries and he's had half season in, half season out, and he's produced some magic moments. But Bernardo has week in, week out, barely ever got injured, played wherever he's asked to be played all sorts of positions, and he's changed positions in the game. And I think he's a glue that Pep has used for years, which is why I didn't think he was going to go this summer, because I think with new players coming in, I thought this summer Pep would need him more than ever to actually be the glue to bring the new players in. And I think, Gundo was a bit like that a few years ago, but Gundo's obviously 4.5, 5 years older than Bernardo. So, I think he becomes, a bit more that Bernardo's going to have to do that role. He's going to have to be the person who brings the new players in and is the glue to change eras in our team. So I don't worry about him taking up game time with other players. I believe he'll make them better players and he'll make them settle quicker.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Andrew says you don't agree with 4 captains, just have one.
Yeah, I mean, you do only have one on the day. I think the problem with City is they know that we're probably going to have 25 games when all of these players are rested. So they do need to have a couple of captains, certainly, because no one. Bernardo might play 45 games.
I think it also shows how much of a leader Vinny was at that club too.
Yeah.
Because he was basically asked to do one thing that 4 players have been asked to do here.
And I think that's why, even though he was, he wasn't bad last year, if we were going to have to get rid of another player, it would be, that's someone who didn't watch the last 10 games of last season.
Or
the Nations League.
He's not finished, mate. No.
Yeah,
he's not finished. He may not be the same player as he was 7-8 years ago, but he's
finished in the same way. He's finished in the same way Rodri and Haaland are finished, i.e., not finished.
Yeah. Are you on the Guinness there or Tetley's?
That is actually Kilkenny.
Is it? Oh, okay. Fair enough.
My dad used to drink that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like Joan Garcia to Barcelona has been announced, 21.4 million. It's good business for them, actually, when you think about it. But curious to see what happens with Ter Stegen for that reason. Then
I think he's another player who is rumoured to be going to Saudi, but I'm not sure they've got quite enough goalkeeper spots for the amount of goalkeepers who are supposed to be there.
Saudi is spending enough money back in this World Club, whatever it is.
Yeah.
In America.
Have you been surprised that Saudi have been this quiet in terms of going back for Edison? For now, mate, I mean that could change next month, obviously. But yeah,
I reckon
I'll tell you something. They put a lot of money behind this World Club Championship in America, and I mean a lot of money. I think that's where the majority of the money is going for, and obviously they bid for the World Cup and got it. So that's where the money. I also
reckon that Khaldoon will have had a little chat with some high-ranking officials in Saudi Arabia and said, we need Edison for another year or two whilst we settle the team in, you leave them alone.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see on that one, won't we?
Yeah. But no, I'm hopeful Ederson stays. Because he could have quite a lot of change in front of him. 2 new fullbacks, a new centre-back pairing, relatively, assuming that, Guardiola moves there, new midfield in the centre. So I think we need stability at goalkeeper. I'd hate to be bedding in, a new keeper in that environment.
Well, the thing is, Rich, I hear what you're saying, but as far as Ederson's concerned, unless he is prepared to commit to the club, we need to line up a new keeper pretty much straight away.
Well, yeah, we need. I mean, we should be thinking. I mean, I think we should be thinking about his successor. Yeah, I agree.
I think we should be doing it now, not next year.
Yeah, because you think we should sign
unless he signs a contract now, we should be doing it next, getting the guy in. And I know who I want. I think everyone knows that.
I think even he knows who you want. Yeah. But no, I think we need to be planning for our next goalkeeper. But I think we'd be better off, football and business-wise, letting Ederson run down the last year of his contract and getting.
Why should we do that? If we get a goalkeeper in now,
if no one offers a decent amount of money, then we have no choice but to do it, because we will lose more points changing goalkeepers that will hit us more financially than taking a 15 million hit on the last season of a contract. He's worth that stability, and that platform is worth more than the saving we'd make getting a bit of extra money.
Well, I'd just go and get Mr. Trafford in personally. I won't piss around. Diego Costa's an accident waiting to happen. Trust me.
Yeah, well, we know where you stand with that, mate, so we'll just leave it at that anyway. But, look, let's see. What else were we going to look at this evening? Let's talk about the Club World Cup. Now, first things first, obviously we've been watching a lot of Inside City and, content that's been posted online of the players and training in that, and we all have probably had a good giggle about, the players, but the new signings with their initiation for their karaoke or in-team karaoke. But wanted to see what you guys thought about what the squad's been doing, and they seem to look like they're hungry. They look like they're ready to go, and it's not just the players who missed out last season. It's the ones that they're sort of infecting the new signings into being hungry, being ready this season. These guys are ready to go, and there's so many things that we've got to be excited about. Of course, this is just this. I'm looking forward to this new dynamic that we're possibly going to be looking at City, and something that we haven't seen for quite a long time. So, what are positives there? I must say. What do you think?
No, I think it's at other times it would have been the biggest disaster that could happen to the club if it had been, 12 months ago, 24 months ago, 36 months ago. I think this would have been a really bad tournament for City to be involved in. But I think coming this summer, it's actually the perfect timing, because I think we've got players who haven't played and a bit, players who had a lot of rest last season through injury. And I'm thinking, not just Rodri, but Bob, Haaland, the centre backs. A lot of players who've played little or no football who need a proper build up to the season. Because I think, when you've had injuries like Rodri, even Haaland, you need a couple of months to get up back to speed. So I think we don't want those months being August and September. We want those months now. And I also think bedding in new players, especially young, fit, energetic players, they've got the energy to go into next season. And coming from other leagues, they probably need a little bit of time to get up to the pace of the Premier League. So I think it's and someone like Foden's got a year to make up that, most of our, or certainly for most Blues, probably the favourite player at the club. He needs, a chance to start smiling and enjoy football again and get away from, some of the challenges he's had. So for me, it's fallen at a wonderful time, and it'll be good for the club.
Getting sort of thoughts about possibly having a start to the season like we did Centurions? Young, hungry players with a different dynamic in terms of how we're playing from the previous year.
Yeah, I think possibly.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and it might be a little bit easy to call, but too early to call. But there are a lot of positives to take.
That's your question. I mean, if you took the league in 2025, I wouldn't be surprised if City were top. If you just took the league points from start of January.
Yeah, we're top of the league in 25. Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yeah, because I've
said this on previous shows for months, Rich. I said if we finish the season strong, every team that finishes the season strong, it reflects in the way they start the next one.
And if we played the form of the second half of the season, excluding the fact we had a bit of abject performance against Real Madrid, but we would have we were better than Arsenal by a mile, better than Liverpool. And admittedly, Liverpool dropped off. Maybe they'd have been a bit stronger if they hadn't won the league with 5 weeks, but we'd have been challenging for the title. So, we haven't got miles, even with what we had. And when you consider you're adding Rodri and Haaland and 3 new signings already to that mix, we've got to be optimistic for next season. We've just got to make sure that we don't, that because of shiny new toys, we don't throw everything out we have. And, there's some City fans who want Bernardo gone, they want Edison gone, they want 11 new players. If we do that, we won't challenge for the title next year because it'll take time. And we had players in, the Centurion season who'd been there for many years, like David Silva, like Ferner, even De Bruyne had been there for a few years. So we had a base on which that team built of
established players,
and we've got, so don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And if we don't, we'll be challenging and we'll win the league next year.
That was another mini rant 2.0.
Yeah, people will be saying, why did Liverpool spend Coutinho money on Wirtz and he made them worse?
Worst case scenario, yeah, true. Blue Moon says, guys, is Ortega gone too? Do you think Edison determines that? What Edison does determines that.
Yep. Edison needs to make his mind up.
One goes, one stays.
Yep.
One stays, one goes.
He can't have his cake and eat it, Mr. Edison, unfortunately.
But Alan, it's not just Edison. There has to be another club, and that's the thing.
I know what you're saying. And
it's the truth.
I know what you're saying. As far as the Club World Cup, I've got mixed feelings on it, as you well know. I'm just worried about a burnout from the players because they're not getting a rest. I think the club and the players need a rest. So I've got very big mixed feelings about it.
Some do.
Ian says it. Yeah, Foden's right. They've been training hard.
I would have. I said this, and I think FIFA don't allow it; they get fined. But there are certain players I would have given the summer off.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Diaz and Bernardo. I'm not sure about Gradio. Gradio's pretty young, but a lot of our players who haven't, there's a lot of players in that squad who haven't played. I think Bernardo and Diaz probably needed the summer off.
I think everyone would agree. All I want this season is to get the title back. The rest are nice to haves, right?
Yeah,
are nice to haves. And to me, I want the players
and
fit.
win the FA Cup again.
Yeah.
We got that right.
This Mickey Mouse tournament.
I want the Carabao because no one else wants it.
Hang on, Rick. Hang on. This Mickey Mouse tournament we're playing in right now, that a beautiful 97 fans. Had 97 fans. Only 97 fans in Orlando today. 97.
Count up all your fingers.
Right? 97 fans. It's a really big tournament. Not. You know,
Thing is, though, Alan, that was exactly what was said about the World Cup when it started, and the British clubs wouldn't even go to it. And now, whenever you look at the World Cup, you see, is it Uruguay, Italy, Uruguay, or is it? And they have got that forever.
97 fans. I watched it once.
But no one went to European the Champions League when it started out in the European Cup. Again, British clubs weren't interested because it was never going to be big. Maybe it won't be, but if it is, I want our name on the top so that when people are looking at the history books in 100 years of the 25 teams who've won the Club World Cup, number one on the list is Manchester City. And doing something that United, the Scousers and everyone else have never done. So I don't think we should be belittling something where we have a chance to put our name in history, because it might be tiny now, but in 24 years' time, it might be the biggest thing in football. And that's the reality of it. The main thing they've got to change is they've got to change how teams qualify, because I do think it's wrong. From this country, it should be Liverpool and City.
Yeah.
From Spain, it should be Barcelona and Madrid. From Italy, it should be Napoli and Inter. Because not having the champions of three of the main European leagues is a mistake. Yeah. And it does mean that, PSG go on and win it, then, they can say, well, the best team in Europe is the best team in the world. But, if someone else goes and wins it who, finished behind, Liverpool or Barcelona or Napoli in the league, there's always going to be this thing that, well, you weren't the best team in your own country. Why were you there? So I would rather have the latest champions qualify plus the last Champions League winner from that country, or the last champion if no one's won the Champions League in the last 4 years, or if you win the Champions League, you're in, and then the top two from the country. So if you won the Champions League, you get three from that country. But they need to resolve that, because that's a mistake. It is a mistake not having, Napoli, Barcelona, and Liverpool there.
Yeah, hugely.
Would you look at possibly even changing, because the big talk over the last couple of days was obviously what happened with Auckland City. I mean, that's going to happen. That probably would have happened if they'd even played like Boca Juniors or something like that, because again, any team from Latin America takes its competition seriously, and more seriously than European teams do. What I'm thinking of, and I'm just sort of, it's just a little bit of a thought, because this competition will mean something to some clubs. The prize money can go a long way, because their budgets are completely different to what they are in Europe. But what I'm getting to is I'm thinking, you want to talk about certain clubs or a certain amount of clubs from each country or from each conference going, and it's not just based on what they did continentally, it's what they did domestically as well. So what I'm getting to, Rich, is I'm thinking something more along the lines of, instead of just groups, it should be based on conference. So rather than Auckland City playing like the top European clubs, they play Asian clubs, or they play maybe not other Asian clubs.
The magic of it is
something for more clubs to play for, not knowing that I'm there and then I'm going to get battered 10-0 for 3 games and then go home.
That could be qualifying, but the reality is the Auckland City mismatch happened. I don't know, but I assume it's because of politics and the fact that the A-League is a multi-country league, so couldn't count towards it. And so when they looked to Australia and New Zealand, why they picked Auckland, not in non-A-League Australian team or something, I don't know. But quite clearly, probably the best team in Oceania is Melbourne City, arguably.
Don't play the
AFC.
Melbourne City don't play AFC. So anyone in the A-League has to be part of the Asia Conference.
Yeah.
If you're playing in the Cook Islands or Fiji, you qualify Oceania.
They need to just be a bit smarter about that. I know you have the same with the Welsh clubs, where if they play in the league pyramid, so Wrexham, Swansea, Cardiff can't qualify into a Welsh place in, but they have to qualify through English football, through winning the Carling Cup or something. But football just needs to be a bit smarter at times. But hey, I mean, isn't it quite magic? Isn't it quite magic that some amateurs who earn $100 a week, so 50 quid a week?
Yeah, the goalkeeper was a forklift driver.
Yeah, and just it must have been quite fun for them to, try just to be on the pitch.
It's a good underdog story,
Yeah, and
regardless. Anyway,
yeah.
Big up to Foggy who's put in the £10 super chat.
Foggy.
Keep up this. Yep, thank you very much, mate. Always appreciated your
Cheers,
support.
Foggy.
Is absolutely second to none. So big up to you. This was what stood out for me, and I'm not surprised because I've been to La Bombonera and I know exactly what the atmosphere is like there. And I've got to say, even with that stadium only full to about 25,000, they made it sound like there was 100 there. Those Boca fans were absolutely unreal. In the game that they played against Benfica, and that was actually ended up being a very, very good game.
Yeah, they're taking it seriously. I actually think we're going to have.
You kind of wish we had a South American team in our group, because then it would have been something that yeah.
I think we're going to have a far harder game than everyone thinks. I particularly today, I'm not. I've heard a lot of City fans talking like it's going to be a 7-0 cruise. I'm not sure it will. I think there's going to be some good footballers playing very hard against us, and we might, we've got quality to get through comfortably, but I think we might have a bit of a surprise.
No comment.
That's not like you, man. That's a bit out of character.
Yeah, it's also a funny time in America.
Mate, with all due respect, I cannot rave about this Mickey Mouse trophy. It's bullshit.
But, it's also going up in America against the finals of two of America's big four sports. It's going up against the Stanley Cup and which finished today, and the NBA is still going. Unfortunately,
I'm surprised the Americans have not made it 45 minutes.
Well, this is interesting for Leafy Greens, and I've thought about this when the fixtures came out too. He said, to be fair, PTO in America is not great. A game at 3 p.m. on a weekdays is not something we can just do. Our country is massive. That is true. I'm really surprised that these fixtures have not been moved to more prime time.
Yeah, but they've been prime time.
You get more bums on seats.
Television. They're being played for TV in Europe.
Yeah.
In Africa.
That was my concern.
In the Middle East. Yeah. They're being played for TV. They're not being played for the good of the games. So
here he is. Here he is.
Well, Rich, we're just being selfish because we want them on later because then that means the games are on the daytime here.
Yeah, they'd all be
lovely. We will get some, but we want more. We're just greedy because we
spend
our lives 9 months every weekend for 9 months of the year getting up at 2 a.m. So
they'd all be at 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning in Europe if they were played there, and that's just not economically sensible for.
Which kind of makes you wonder, like, what are they going to do if a World Cup ever comes to Australia? I reckon all the games would be on a bit kick off at 10 p.m.
But it probably would. But this is all about FIFA getting at UEFA, and they wouldn't get at UEFA by putting games on at times that Europeans wouldn't watch them. So, FIFA is putting it on prime time in Paris, Madrid, London, Rome, Milan, etc., and that's the reality of it.
Martin.
Good evening.
Thanks for being a guest. Much appreciated.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm getting the hang of it. It's all right. Yeah.
Good man. Yeah, big up.
Yeah, you're surprised how quickly you get behind the comments. I can't lie, to be honest.
Patrick's lost his virginity today on the old YouTube. He's there driving the tram.
You haven't been watching OnlyFans. It was Alan who did, not Pat.
I think Alan's bins were steaming up there for a second.
I'm just enjoying a nice 27 degrees at the minute.
Good lad.
Ooh.
Well, are you in Turkey already?
No, I'm in Manchester.
What? No, it's not 27 there.
It is.
It's bloody warm. Bloody warm one.
No, it's 22.
22. No, we're not talking about the amount of women. They're not talking about the amount of women.
You see that knob on the side of your car. Not the one
Hey, here we go.
Not the one looking at the steering wheel. The one that you turn that down to where it's blue. Then that'll get you down for 27 degrees.
Oh, right. Lovely. Anyway, so, go on. You're the driver.
No, I was just saying. I was just thinking, like,
okay. Lovely.
I get. Yeah, hurry while stocks last. You got your Satch kit on.
Yeah, I'm all ready for watch.
Did you try the traffic warden shirt on?
No, that's a goal itself.
You know what, Martin? Don't wear that when you're driving because it looks like you've got one of those kids' seat belts that goes both ways on you.
Cheeky bag. Anyway, carry on, man. So what we're talking. Oh, Elliot's joined us as well.
Yep. All right, El.
Hello, you all right?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Yeah,
is this the porn-up show? This?
Well, it's not anymore because Alan's.
I've gone off camera. I've gone off camera now. Yeah.
It's just getting changed.
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
It's not what I expected to see when I tuned in. To be fair.
Out of Alan's mouth, yeah.
Yeah. Not what I expected to see. Yeah, I do, mate.
Yeah. No, look, I don't understand, like, partly where Alan's coming from, but also, I don't really have a problem with this competition. It's like they're obviously trying to make an extension of what was already existent. If you'd won your continental, the trophy for your respective continent, basically, and they're trying to make it a bit more global reaching. And I'm sure there's going to be some sort of teething problems. There's going to be a conflict of interest with certain fan bases around the world and things like that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, FIFA still runs the show. And, I mean, I know everybody has very, very varying opinions about – well, we all have the same opinion, but sometimes the level of it varies from person to person. But I still think it's something worth getting behind, basically. And,
I'm waiting for the 45-minute half-time with a band on. And then every 10 minutes they stop the game and have adverts and wait till the adverts come on.
Can I just say, and I know you've had a say on this, by the way, great show. Big up to Pat. He's doing this for the first time. Big up to him. Mate. Doing an amazing job.
Well done, mate.
Appreciate it.
It means all we've got to do now is get Ozzy and Rich trained up. And we're flying. We're working with gold. Don't worry, Alan. We will take the stabilize off you at some point. Anyway, Bernardo Silva.
And the Hannibal Lecter mask.
Maybe when you stop sending me all your WhatsApp messages about the bloody world, I can touch that. You know what I mean? Jesus. Anyway, people who get these messages will know what I mean. Bernardo Silva as captain. I have no issue with it. I don't know what this issue is at the minute with these. I think we're going too far with this Unks thing. But this is just my opinion. I think we're going too far into the other way. We were never going to do a Chelsea. This thing of let's just buy all 19 and play all 19-year-olds was never happening. Bernardo Silva has still got a lot to offer this football club. And yeah, it will be his final year. You could tell that from his comments today. He's made his decision. You can tell that. So what I don't understand is he's been here for 8-9 years. Yeah, he has wanted to leave, but Pep's chose him. And I know what will come out. It's Pep's boy. It's Pep's son. Pep's this. It's Pep.
Good.
He's got naked photos of his wife in the drawer and all this other stuff.
And
exactly.
Martin, who can be a better judge in world football?
Facts.
About who's entitled to be their football?
As Pep Guardiola. Exactly. That's my point. What do you want? Do you want a 19-year-old as captain who hasn't even finished puberty yet?
There were certain people out there in January, if I remember rightly, asking for like strikers back who we used to have under like Mancini. So, but if you're going to use like same energy for like players, then you want to use same energy for like the players what we currently have.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, you can't change it. You can't change it.
Yeah, being captain doesn't mean he's going to play 73 games.
Yeah, but look, if you go back to 17-18, the Centurion season, most games Edison, But after him, you had De Bruyne, Otamendi, and Fernandinho, all players who'd been there for a while. You had Carl. Then you have Carl Walker. You've got Raheem Sterling. You've got David Silva. You've got Sané, Aguero, Delph. Right. Most of those players weren't brand new signings in 17-18. Yes, there were some new signings that added to it, but a lot of them were the core of a previous team with new signings coming in, and that's the key to a successful team, not selling everyone and getting 11 new players.
Yeah, I think some have taken this rebuild too literal. It was never 11 in, 11 out. I know that's what some wanted. And the thing is, listen, I'm not saying some of these players haven't come to an end, such as maybe, I'm not saying they shouldn't deserve to be, or maybe sold. But what I don't like is, I don't like the way we're sort of rewriting history a little bit, and we're forgetting history, and we're not giving them the respect on the way out. But we're not doing. The way we're taught, we're treating them like they're old scabby dogs. And once they're finished, we take them out back like Old Yeller and shoot them. And we don't. And that's the bit I don't like. I'm not going to argue about some need selling. I think it's the way some are going about it.
Yeah, and I
think very heartless, very cold. Yeah. And I get from a club's point of view, the club can be cold. The club can be a bit heartless and a bit more ruthless. I understand that. But from a fan's point of view, yeah, the fans are in this for love. We're in this for love. So I don't think we can be heartless with it. That's just me, though.
I think a lot of the fans, though, Mark, I think a lot of the fans are heartless and toxic towards.
Well, it's not. It's not heartless. I think they're stupid.
Some fans, not all fans.
Yeah. I think they're stupid. I think the idea that you can just
and it's their opinion, Rich. It is their opinion. I just don't agree with it.
150 years of football proves them wrong. There's not many teams who get rid of 11 players and win the league. Successful teams are the ones who take out 1 or 2 players each year, bring a couple of new players in, and they get that balance right. We had that balance right for quite a while. We went 1 season too long, possibly 1.5 seasons. We should have done a little bit earlier, and we got off track, and we'll get back on track. But we don't get back on track by writing off everything. We get on track by addressing the issues in the squad, by having some continuity, and by going on to the next level. And if we want to succeed, we need some players like Bernardo at the team. And that's why I think we need Edison for another season at the team to enable the new players to come in. And then in a year, in Bernardo's case, maybe 2 years in some of the other players' cases.
He makes a good point here. He said proved his captaincy ability when he protected.
It was phenomenal. It was one of the best bits of captaincy in 50 years watching City.
And like I said, excuse my language, but the shithousery that he does, you can't buy that. And I won't mind a bit of that in the dressing room. I think we need someone in the dressing room to stand up and go, "Oi, I need you to show a pair of bollocks on that pitch, mate."
So you're saying no more happy clappy at Martin? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, Pat, I told you last season was, I gave him a season. They deserved the season. Of course, yeah. But next season, if they perform like they did last season, this season, then I'll go after them in a constructive manner. But, I'm not going to, Pep Guardiola can't have another season. I don't think he will. We've done everything we said we were going to do. We've rejigged the back room. We've brought new players in, good young players, good long-term players that are going to improve the football club. I don't think we're finished yet. And there will be departures. You just got to let it happen.
Yeah. Coach YP here is new to Channel 2. Big up, mate. Appreciate the support. He says, I love Bernardo, but he should not be our main captain when we have Diaz and Rodri. I get what you're saying. Everybody has their opinion, and they think there might be better captain material. But I think the big thing here is Bernardo's been there for several years longer than both of them.
But just ask you a question: doesn't Pep deserve the right to judge? He works with these players 80 hours a week. Do you not think he deserves the right to judge who is the best person to be captain?
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing.
Is there anyone on the planet who is better placed to judge than Pep?
Yeah, and another thing as well, lads. Another thing as well. What nobody else actually thinking of is the fact that Rodri's obviously coming back from an ACL injury, so he shouldn't realistically play every minute of every game. In fact, he should probably have a sort of miss and match season. I will say we should be dropping him in than dropping him out. To be honest, and also another thing, if I remember rightly, Martin, I think you can vouch for this. There was a few people saying about should Diaz actually be starting, which I find a bit mad to be fair. But people were saying should Diaz be starting going into this season. So if that's the case, then why would we let them be captains when we've got Bernardo, like you said before, Rich, where he's been available for the last God knows how many years, and he's never once whinged or done anything regarding the actual team. If anything, he's come out and he called it out, which I think probably has earned him this captaincy, if I'm honest.
And I'd rather
I'm not being funny.
I'd rather Rodri not be captain because he's a tactical captain. He's the glue.
Yeah. No, I apologise, Rich. I didn't hear that. My bad. Didn't mean to speak over you.
I just saying.
I think Diaz showed he's not quite ready for captaincy after his comments after Southampton. I think his comments after Southampton were misjudged. I think they were a bit. I'll say it as it is. I'll say it as it is. Disrespectful and arrogant.
Yeah. I will let Diaz off the hook a little bit with those comments too, because I think to me that just sounded like a player who's had as much minutes as anybody else in the league this season, and it was just the combination of a really, really bad season. I think he probably was saying things that a lot of the players were thinking, and you're right, Martin. I think there is a bit of arrogancy to it as well, but at the same time too, I would not be surprised if three quarters of that squad, they'd had the camera and the microphone shoved in their face, probably would have said something of a similar nature.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I just think, I heard that said the other day that Diaz is a bit of a field mouse in the dressing room. I have heard that rumour. I don't know if it's true, but that's your thing. You don't want someone who's a bit of a field mouse and just sits in a corner.
Yeah, the problem with for me, I know what you're saying, but on the other hand, right, you could say, yes, I agree with what Diaz was saying, and obviously I get it was a frustrating season for everybody, including the fans, everybody. Right, but the problem with that were, by slating a team for sitting back who don't want to, like Rich said, there's plenty, well, I think it was weeks back now, to be fair, when the game was, you're slating a team for sitting back and just defending because they don't want to go down as the worst team in Premier League history. Sometimes you have to look at yourself, which is what Bernardo Silva has come out and said. There's evidence with Bernardo Silva's word where he's come out and he said, I've noticed who can go to war and who can't go to war with players. That's the difference. Yeah. Whereas I think it's all right slating a team for coming back and sitting against, well, what would we have done if we was playing a team like who we currently are? We would have probably done the same back in the day. So I think it's a little bit maybe arrogant, I probably would say the word, with a lot of things more than anything.
Yeah, fair enough. I suppose also too the way you look at it might also be a generational thing as well too. Because I think the young kids, the young ones, would probably look at that too, and they'd be like, "Oh, Diaz is absolutely right." Like, but again, I said from day one, a game like that was huge for Southampton to play for, to not give that town being the worst team ever.
Problem with Diaz as captain is if we have a fully fit squad, he's not in our best two centre backs. So does he play?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can make that.
Probably the centre back will give you the most longevity.
Yeah, and you come in that case for a lot of players, Rich, when you think about it. Like you said, I know, obviously, like say Rodri coming back ACL, so obviously you got that in consideration. Obviously, I know Diaz, obviously, like we've obviously just spoken about beforehand. Haaland, if I'm honest, I don't think he should be as captain at this minute in time. I could probably see him being as captain in the future, but I don't think at this minute in time, I don't think he should be captain.
I think for him, Pep's comment suggested that for him, it's about learning.
Yeah.
And he will be captain.
If you're going to be for 10 years,
so for him, it's about learning and teaching him to think of the team first. So I actually think for Haaland, he's being put there to change his mentality a little bit. For just Pep's comments made it sound like Haaland's been focused on nothing else apart from scoring goals. I want to teach him about putting the team first, because Pep's comments were pretty clear that the right captain always makes the decision in the team's interest. And once they do that, they're a brilliant captain. And, so I think that's probably a comment about, I'm going to make Haaland a better player by making him understand the team better. And in a few years' time, he's going to be here for a long time. In a few years' time, he'll be captain. So I think he's there to learn from the three of them. And probably, Gundo as well, if he stayed.
Yeah, maybe that's quite telling, you know. I don't know whether you have spoke about that, but the Gundogan situation is quite, for me, it's quite thingy because would Gundogan not be a part of the captaincy if he was to stay?
Great point.
Well, I'd mentioned this as soon as it came out. I'd said, like, I used the, you know, basically power of subtraction. I thought those names that aren't there, that's when they're going to start saying, are they going to have a future at this club? And the fact that I didn't see Ilko made me think that maybe he's not.
Well, either he's going or
because if he was in that captain. Sorry, just to add to what I was saying, this is if I saw him in that captaincy team, I would totally expect it.
Yeah,
but didn't we know
to me that he's not going to be a part of the future players of this club?
I think maybe moan's the wrong word, but didn't a lot of people get upset when it came out? Because I remember doing a lot of shows last year, around about the time, I think it was about this time. Do you remember when Pep said, "I let the players decide who's captain"? There was a lot of people who said, "No, we want the manager. That should be the manager's job. That should be the manager's job." So this year we've had a rocky start, and we had a rocky season, and things were a bit off. Pep's turned around and gone, "You know what? No, I'm choosing it this year. Didn't like what I saw last year, so I'm going to choose it." So now he's standing up being a manager, and we're upset about who he's choosing. So this is what I mean when I said, look, I made a comment last year. Sometimes you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
And it was a pretty clear dig, you know, at Walker and maybe De Bruyne.
Yeah.
That he made those comments, because he made a comment that he was really unhappy with what was done last year, and now he's had
I think that's Walker, Rich. I think that's Walker. Sorry to butt in, mate, but I think that's Walker, mate. I agree with you on that. I think that's more Walker. The fact that Walker was okay to just maybe not okay. I'm probably being a bit harsh there, but the fact that Walker was just fine just to go on loan and he weren't willing to fight and maybe stay. And I think this probably comes back to, I know me and Andy from MCC podcast speak a lot about this, and we speak about the fact with Laporte and Nathan Ake, how Ake just carried on just fighting against Laporte, and whoever was the best defender played the games, which is what we need, if I'm honest. I think that's where we probably have dropped off. I said this to you privately, Martin, before, and where I think where we had in the treble, where it was Morris on the bench, you feed for your position. Bernardo was obviously cooking, as I was saying earlier on that season. I think that's probably what we have missed a lot this year. We missed competition.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think, you know, the comments about captain thinking for themselves suggest to me that Kyle Walker was focused on himself, not focused on the club as well. You know, and obviously, you know, a club legend as a right back, but you know, clearly not the right person to be in charge last season. And I do hope we keep Rodri from being captain a lot, because I think Rodri's in a way is our tactical captain. He's the quarterback for the team and everything else. So I'd like him to just focus on, you know, running the team and let someone else do the arguing with the referee and complaining and everything else. I think he's got a lot of responsibility as it is. So I like Bernardo, and I think I want Haaland concentrating on putting the ball in the net. So for that reason, probably Diaz and Bernardo, for me, should be captain most games.
The Portugueses.
Yep.
Elliot, you might have seen this, but Louis just said, do you guys think what Ilko said in an interview recently was very eye-opening after the Club World Cup? I haven't seen the interview, so I don't know if you've...
Yeah, no,
apparently Ilko said so. I had an interview about something. I don't know. I haven't seen it. So Louis, I don't know.
What did he say? Lewis or Louis?
Louis, if you want to elaborate on that, and I'll post it up there as well, mate. Yeah, because I'd be curious to see what that was about. Yeah. A couple of other things too. Cootball is just commented saying, guys, do you think Man City will make a comeback this season? Too early to call at the moment, me personally, but I think we'll definitely be competing again.
Yeah, I mean, as we said earlier, in 2025, we've got the best record in the Premier League. So were it not for that one win in 13 games in October, November, you know, we are competing already. You know, and on the last 6 months, we have been competing. So, yeah, I've got no issue. I think even without the new signings, we you know, with Rodri and Haaland back, we'd have been competing at the top of the Premier League. with the extra players signed and with some other signings in January bedding in, then, you know, I'd be very surprised if we're not. I'd be very surprised if we're not, you know, deep in the Champions League. Obviously, once you get to the quarterfinals, anything can happen, and there's really top teams there. As we've seen, you know, we were good enough to have won 3 or 4 Champions Leagues, but the reality on the football pitch means we've only had one. But yeah, I think we'll be bang on competing for the league. I think we'll be bang on competing for the Champions League, and the cups, well, we'll see. But
I'm going to go, guys, because I want to get some sleep before the game starts.
Yeah, you're right, mate. All good.
All right. I'll speak to you later, Rich.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, cool.
Speak to you.
See you, Pat.
See you later, Rob.
See you, pal.
See you later, Matt. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting situation, to be honest. I think it's a bigger thing than what people make up of the captaincy. Like, when I look back to it, like, I think you spoke about earlier on about like the Vinny days and stuff, and like probably like Bernardo Silva. I think you do want probably like a good sort of like character around the place and stuff. And yeah, did Walker really cover himself in glory? Definitely not. But like you says, on the other hand, it was one of them where I think when we look at it and we probably balance it out, I think we've had more better captains than we have had worse captains, if I'm honest. Especially in recent times as well, I think, like I said, apart from maybe Kyle Walker, I can't think of anybody who didn't do that job in the manner where it should have probably been done.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think, you know, Coach YP again, I'm perfectly confident Bernardo is the most articulate player in the squad. He speaks about 6 languages, so he'll be able to talk to the referees, you know, in the Champions League as well as in the Premier League. You know, he's a very, very intelligent, you know, educated player. You know, he's not yet.
Coach makes a point here. Yeah, he might be good considering that new rule about it's just the captain. If anybody else comes and tries to throw in 2 bob, then they run the risk of getting cards.
I find it astounding watching him, where he's fluent. You know, you hear him speak English, and his English is phenomenal. It's better than most of the English footballers in the country, to be honest. And he's also fluent in Portuguese. He's fluent in Spanish. He's fluent in French. You know, that's why he was the one who was talking to Kuzanov, because Kuzanov could only speak a bit of pidgin French, so it was him who was going to do it. And you know, he can. You know, I've got no issue with him talking to referees or scousers.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, Louis come back to us just saying what Ilkay Gundogan said. It'll increase the competition and motivation, I'm sure. I think that was exactly the same thing we said in 2017 when those new signings came in. Competition in every position, and it made the players play at 110% pretty much the whole season.
Yeah, go on, Mitch. Go on, Mitch.
I was going to say, a lot of those new players in 17-18 didn't play as much as everyone thinks. So a lot of the old players who played, you know, so many of those games.
Yeah. No, sorry, Mitch. What we're going to just say were, to be fair, the comments on, I don't know whether there's any of like you have seen it from, I think it was from a journalist from ESPN or something. It was obviously reporting on City, I think, while they're obviously over in America. And he was saying about, like, obviously Pep Linders about, obviously they want the ball to be obviously at a faster speed, and obviously they want to play with a bit more energy and stuff. And I said this to a few of the Blues that I know, and we was having a chat about it, and we were saying it's quite interesting because when you look at like the Liverpool midfield, obviously going up against them in like the Klopp days and stuff, you wouldn't say that any of them was actually brilliant. I can only think maybe Thiago, I think, like, was pretty unbelievable, fair on the ball, but I suppose that was sort of the mould of player what he was. I think you spoke about this before, Rich. There wasn't actually great actual players. What there was like players who got up and down the pitch, like people like John Henderson, Fabinho obviously was like sort of like the sitter in at the time. I know obviously, like I said, that Thiago there, but there wasn't actually brilliant on the ball. Now I look at Bernardo, and I think it's someone like Pep Linders, if he's looking at the City team, and he's looking back to probably the Jurgen Klopp, the Liverpool days. I think that'll probably be a big thing with someone like Bernardo, where, and we all know Pep loves him for what he is and what he's done for us. But I also think if you look at like a Pep Linders and you look at the kind of more what he had at Liverpool, I think Bernardo fits that pretty well. And it also maybe opens a question as to, are we possibly going to get a little bit of a bigger squad? Because if we are going to play with a lot more pressing and we're going to be a little bit more on the front foot when we haven't got the ball, and we're going to try and win the ball back within 5-10 seconds, whatever they may be. That's going to obviously be a little bit more a demand on the players, considering that we have what they had 2 weeks, 3 weeks, some of them, if not that. So maybe could be another little indication that we maybe have a little bit of a bigger squad than what Pep initially said.
Yeah, and I think I agree with that. I think there'll be a bit more physicality, and I think we may well find that even with the new players, to get the mix right, we need a player like Bernardo in there, even if they're playing in that front 5 or 6, because we need a variety of players, and we need players with the tactical expertise to help Cherky and Marmoush and everyone really find their best form. And I think I see too many people saying, I hope we don't play Bernardo, we got to play the new signings. Well, I just want to play the best 11. And if that has the new signings in and Bernardo's resting, then that's fine. If it has Bernardo in it, I don't want to play anyone other than the best 11 to beat the opponents on the day, and rotating where we need to keep the players fit. So Bernardo deserves to play plays. If he doesn't, he doesn't. It's that simple. No one should have a free pass because they've been there a long time. But equally, no one should have a free pass to just walk in the team because they're a new signing if they're not producing the goods. So I think people are worrying about it too much.
That's what I was saying to Martin, Rich, the other night. I don't know if you caught any of it. Me and Martin would have obviously Pat was on as well, but we was having a long discussion about the likes of Foden. And my point is if you're going off of last season, which you've obviously said yourself, for me, you don't look at Phil Foden and go, where he was way better than Claudio Chiaveri at the end of the season. Now, we could say the same thing about Oscar Bob at the start of the season before, obviously, he broke his leg. Nobody could turn around and say, oh, well, I believe Bernardo Silva should be playing on the right wing, because at that point, it wasn't as good probably as Oscar Bob was at that point in that season. We have to, I think you've just said it yourself, Rich, then, we have to have healthy competition, but we have to have healthy competition for whether it's a new player, an old player, or wherever it may be. If it's an academy player who comes up halfway through the middle of the season in January, if he's going to offer something better than whoever it may be at that point, then we have to go with that. For me, we have to do it as each game as it comes. And
No, I get that.
That's what I was trying to say about the Foden thing. That's what I was trying to say. I don't think.
Oh, you wasn't.
No, I was. I was saying right there. Well, my point was, I don't believe Phil Foden should be looked at as last season, but I do get the thing of we can't expect Phil just to come back and hit the forms of what he hit in the.
Oh no, I agree
season.
with that. Yeah, it should be
done. That's
should be
sensible.
Yeah. At the time, I agree, but he wasn't, because I'll give you a little bit of insight, everyone. He rang me up after the show and went, I got you wound up there, didn't I?
And did I succeed?
Quick question. Pat, I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen what Trade Union Blues have done?
No. Go on.
Have you heard about it, Elliot?
No, I've not seen anything, no.
Rick?
No.
You know the 10-game minimum in person for the season tickets?
Yeah.
They've taken legal action against the club, saying it's discriminatory.
Jeez. So, what, based in the way of it's sort of an attack on the sort of demographic of the fan base?
Yeah, so
that's what it would, because we all know most of our fan base are blue collar. They work. They can't make every game.
I don't know, because I've rang up and the club. I'm going to say the club have been great with me, so I can only go off my personal experience. The club have helped me out a lot with my parents and everything else. So if I can't make games, they understand the fine. Apparently, some people have rang up. Yeah, and they've been told they've got to downgrade their ticket to a Flexi Gold.
You know where would. Yeah, you know where.
Not sure how I feel about it.
I doubt it will be on the blue collar nature of the fans. I suspect it will be. I suspect they'll be able to make cases that, a parent with responsibility for looking after their kids will be discriminated against. Some disabilities would leave you discriminated against, where you
pregnant women.
mental health issues if you don't feel able to go. So I think there'll probably be quite a few angles that they'll be able to use, but I don't think it will be aimed at, the financial aspect of it. I think it'll be aimed at this discriminates against.
Sorry, I should have made that clear. Illegal action. Yeah, it's on a legal standing, Rich.
Yeah,
it's on a legal standing.
Disabilities. Yeah. So. And it might,
I don't know. I've got mixed feelings on that. I'm not sure that's a step too far.
I think, to be honest, could we not just speak to the club? I mean, if they've obviously considered the thing of now working, for me, obviously, looking from an outside point of view, looking onto it with, my thoughts on the actual situation itself, Martin, with the process and what's been going on. If the club are willing to listen about other things, surely they're willing to listen about the fact that, like you've just said yourself, if you explain to the club about the situation, what you may be in or what you're worried about, could the club maybe not come to a term and agree where, that's a fair way to go about it? For me, I don't think we should be arguing with the club after we've just done what we've just asked them to do, but that's obviously just my opinion.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, because people are saying you can pass to friends, you can only do it on 3 or 4 occasions, up to 6, I believe. You must attend 10 in person.
Up to 7, isn't it? Up 7?
No,
up
10
times.
6. 10 times you got to attend in person. Might be 6 or 7, but you've got to use it 10. And also, they're not happy with, is it this face recognition ID they're bringing in? And the turnstiles, where they're going to have cameras there.
Well, you'd have to consent to that, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Well, apparently they've said they won't be switched on.
I was going to say, if they're going to take, with the European privacy laws and stuff, I assume if they were going to keep an image of your face to test against it, they'd have to have your consent to do it. But
I don't know.
But I mean,
did you not get the email?
They do that in nightclubs here in Sydney now too, where they have to scan your face and your driver's license, and it's yeah,
that's because of Alan.
But they have to get your consent.
In Sydney every weekend, Martin.
That's because of Alan. Alan's caused that law.
Yeah,
so and I warn the New South Wales government as well too. So
yeah, someone's just putting the comments about that's a lot of phone calls, and I was put my name on it. Yeah, I get what you're saying, mate, but what I mean is if the club. To me, if the club are willing to listen to, obviously, I know there's obviously come out that there's been meetings with the likes of 1894 and obviously MCFC food banks and people like that. If they're willing to have the talks with them, for me, I don't see why it'd be a problem just to mention this and bring it up in an actual meeting. I don't think we need to go suing the club on something if they've not actually been. Now, but listen, there maybe have been conversations and we don't know about that. But
they'll be trying to force the club to change the rules, not suing them for damages of doubt. They basically just said it discriminates on illness, pregnancy, disability, caring responsibilities, or work shifts.
Oh, there are. Rich has got it up.
Yeah,
found it. Yeah, I only noticed it was on Talk Sport earlier. I didn't realise about it.
Yeah, so they're saying it requires a blanket requirement for attendance, which significantly disadvantages a number of protected groups under the Equality Act. So they'll be going, be interesting actually.
You wonder too if maybe trade union blues have sort of called out the club and in a form of double standards as well too, because they're so worried about making sure that season ticket holder goes to X amount of games, and yet they're willing to sign a multi-million pound partnership with Viagogo, who are known for extorted prices for sporting and music events as well. So you kind of look at it and you're like, why are you being so strict on the general public, and yet other parts of the general public can go and just rinse the market for tickets that are overinflated for their prices and that.
I mean,
well, that's it. Yeah, go on, Mitch.
I was going to say, just hope that we find a better way of managing tickets, because let's be honest, in life, when you buy something or you pay for it, you can normally use it for the purposes you wish to within the rules, and tickets have kind of gone against this. If you own a ticket, you're not allowed to, you're not necessarily allowed to just give it away as a present to someone, or any number of things. So they've just got to figure out the better way to stop touts, because they're doing it partly to stop touts buying season tickets and then charging £100 a game. But you don't punish touts by punishing lifelong supporters. So there's got to be a better way for,
like, as if they think they're all in this together, sort of thing. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, it's like a lot of rules. You punish the majority because of the behaviour of the minority, and you know, and it's always annoying because 90% of people do the right thing. And
yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest, Rich. I have rang up, and the club have been great to me.
That's what I'm saying,
So
Martin. Yeah, I'm not saying getting in a meeting like you just done, obviously on your phone call. Could people not get into a meeting with?
You're a celebrity, Martin. You're a celebrity.
Well, we know that, Rich.
You know,
I rang up. I went,
what do you think wants that Melbourne City shirt?
They probably sponsor Martin with a pre-season ticket. He gets sponsored.
On the Viagogo thing, you know what, Pat? You know, on the Viagogo thing, what you just mentioned, Pat?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of something what's not being pulled up on with this, though, by the way, because, right, so obviously, well aware that obviously the new stand and the new hotel onto the back of it, which then goes onto the back of the Co-op Live, right? I'm just wondering if the club are looking at this and thinking, this might be a good deal to do, because, one, if we've got concerts on at the Co-op Live, is that then obviously people obviously buy tickets naturally off like pages like Ticketmaster and Viagogo and these kind of websites. If they're looking at stuff like that, I'm not sure as to where the club are if the club are looking at it and going, well, if you get a deal where you can go to a concert, then we can put you in the hotel for X, Y, and Z price, a bit of a deal sort of thing. And I heard someone say this a couple of weeks back about Tottenham, about the stadium at Tottenham, and somebody said apparently they're looking to build an hotel around the Tottenham stadium, which I don't know how they're going to do that, because I don't know whether he's been or not, but it's pretty mental around there.
There's no room.
That makes sense.
That's what I said. That's what I thought, to be honest.
It makes sense too, because that stadium is so multi-purpose all year round as well.
Yes, and that's what I think. And that's what I think they're saying is like you do like a bit of a deal where if you buy a ticket for a concert, you knock 25% off of your price for your ticket, or £25 off a ticket, or a £30 off a ticket, which doesn't sound like a lot, but as people know nowadays, with how the world is in a money way, it is a lot of money when you consider about knocking it off. And I just wonder whether City are looking. I just find it a little bit. What's the word? I find it a little bit dicey, I suppose, in a way. The fact that we've got a new hotel, what's going to be coming with a new stand on it, and then the back of that is a Co-op Live. I just think it's a little bit, and then we announced a partnership with Viagogo the same year. Now, listen, that may be just a little bit of a conspiracy thing on that, but I would not be shocked if something like that did happen.
Oh, I've got an update on that, by the way. Next week, I'm going to do a live show from the Etihad and do a walk around of the new stand in the hotel. I'll give you a bit of an update, show everyone an update.
What happened to you abseiling off the roof, by the way?
It's not open yet.
Oh, okay.
And there's no abseiling. It is the roof wall.
They need to see you for planning permission.
I think I'm losing weight, so there's a maximum weight on the.
I thought they needed to consult you for planning permission.
What's this tweet Thomas put out? What's Leafy on about?
Leafy Greens has put it out. He was saying, okay, but talking about Bernardo briefing United about a potential civil war in the Prem because he claims no wrongdoing while at City. And if it was someone in the club you wanted to hear that from, as much as you wanted to hear it from the Sheikh or from Khaldoon, he's probably the next one after him. And especially where he is now.
Who told me, or Bernardo, Pat?
Bernardo.
Bloody hell, this Tommy gets around. Bloody hell, he's sorting that out.
Yeah.
Must know his stuff, eh?
Well, I mean, we're missing the point here. It's like, if we were so worried about 115, do you think we would have got fixtures today? Has Vauxhall Conference been released yet?
it wasn't Cheltenham at home. Cheltenham at home wasn't the opening fixture.
No, we didn't see Macclesfield. No,
I think we're all right at the minute.
Yeah.
By the way, have you seen Arsenal fans? Arsenal fans are giving up the league already. They went, our first 10 fixtures, forget it. We'll be out of it.
Who do they have? I know they've got the rags, haven't they? First game.
The first 3 games, Elliot. It's like United. Is it United away? and then Liverpool at home, or Liverpool United at home and Liverpool away. 2 of the first 3 of those.
I don't get that. I don't get that though.
Relegation team.
Yeah, but I don't get that though. It's because, well, anyone, because surely everyone knows that you have to play like the team twice a season, like at home and away. I don't get why they make a big deal out of that.
In an exactly fixed time period, you have to play every team home and away. It's just you have
just get easier fixtures later on.
That's what I don't get. I don't get as to what they're trying to make. The point trying to make. If anything, it might work out better because if they're not playing all day,
Champions League, they don't have a winner's mentality. They're never going to win anything.
Let me switch it this way, Rich. Would you not rather face the top teams when they're a bit new, players haven't settled in, and everyone's fit? Would you rather, or do you want to face Liverpool when you've got an injury crisis in November and December?
Yeah, in City's case,
you know what I mean?
With our pre-season, I'd rather be starting the first game at Anfield. Second game at White Hart Lane.
I'm all for that too, mate. Yeah. But let's be honest. Though, I was waiting for you to say White Hart Lane or Tottenham away as well too. And we talked about this for years as well. We said the reason why we spent the first 6-7 seasons at Tottenham and never winning there was because we always played them in about the first third of the season when we're still trying to sort ourselves out. And as we know, Tottenham are always the Premier League champions by October every single season. So they're always on the top of their game, and we're still trying to sort things out. And that's the reason why we always lost there. Now, I know people could say, well, it changed because when at the old White Hart Lane, there used to be time we used to go there for season on season. We'd always battle them. But that was because back then things were different. We were just trying to dominate the league and trying to get as many points as possible. But now we obviously, since Pep's come in, we're always a second half season team. We always perform better in the second half. But that's all I've always looked at it. And I've said, I think the second it comes down to when we have to play a crucial game away at Spurs and it's late in the season, then that's when it happens. And sure enough, 4 in a row, we beat them 2-0 at their ground.
Weirdly enough, Aston Villa at home, last game of the season. Aston Villa at home. Gundogan may be here, may not be here. You know what I mean?
Martin, I remember what I've always said, and it's something that we had never done in the Premier League era, and that is, and I've got to look at it here. So I'm not looking at Villa away the last game of the season. I'm looking at the third last game of the season, which will be our second last home game, which is at home against Brentford on May the 9th. Remember how many times I've told you, I said we've never, ever won a league at home unless it's on the final day of the season. I want to win a league with games to spare and we clinch it at home. You know, like Liverpool did last season. They won at home to win the league with games to spare. We've never done it. We've never had that luxury. It's always been if we've won the league comfortably because the other teams have dropped points and then we won it without kicking a ball.
Oh, it's a great point. I mean, don't get me wrong.
I want to do it for a change, something different. Yeah.
If Liverpool pull Isaac out the bag, which apparently now they all think they're getting Isaac. By the way, God, it's weird how suddenly Liverpool owners have decided they're not asked about the Red Sox at the moment, and they're willing to.
They just send their best player to San Francisco. Yeah,
pump all the money into Liverpool, and now they're going after Isaac. I'm like, but I don't see any media talking about Liverpool wanting to spend 500 million. Anyway, I'm being bitter.
That's the best thing. That's the best thing. That's the best thing for me, though, lads. Let them go and spend a lot of money because and I spoke to a few people about this. What we should really start doing now, and not just even City fans, actual football fans in general, like United fans and Chelsea fans, people like that. We should start going after them now. If Florian Wirtz doesn't win a Ballon d'Or and he don't win a treble and things like Jack Grealish did, because it's all right when they give it us, but then as soon as it's roles reversed and it's a different thing, that's what I mean. I don't get it. That whole thing sums up football. The fact Jurgen Klopp come out, and obviously I know everyone's probably seen it. The thing of we can't compete with teams like Newcastle and City and where they go on. That just sums up actual football clubs, I think, in general, how they think. That's just bizarre, that kind of stuff. And
they're
meant to look idiots out there. Do you know what I mean? That's what.
Yeah, Elliot, you can be the white collar side of the club, and you can still have tribalism. It doesn't just extend to the fan bases.
What's with all this colour? Why are you all naming, colour coordinating colours here today, Pat?
Beg your pardon?
We've had blue colour, white colour, bit of pink colour in a minute.
Yeah, I've only said blue and white. That refers to working class and
I know.
and the corporate side of things. That's your fault.
Anyway, I'm gonna shoot because I'm live again in 2 hours. So
No, that's all right, mate. We'll wrap up in a few minutes. We'll just quickly wrap up with our thoughts on the opening game against Wydad.
Yeah, I'll let you both wrap up the show. So yeah, cheers for letting us on anyway.
Yeah. Cheers, Elliot.
Later,
just
lads.
let you know, watch along 4:30. I will be live. Yeah, come and join us. Grab a bit of food.
I've got enough left in the tank. I'll join you too, Martin.
Yeah, well, I'll send it out and listen. We'll do. We might even get some people on at halftime. People want to come on at halftime. So there's, I know everyone's fighting for retail space in the watch along community, but you want to come on at halftime, and obviously we might do a little fan calling at halftime. Anyway, and we might do something at full time as well. But yeah, we'll see you all post-match Thursday. I'll see you all at 4:30. Big up Pat as well and Rich. Rich, you're getting this treatment next. You're going to be in the hot seat soon, as you and Ozzy.
Yeah. You're going to be king of the castle soon, mate.
But anyway, take care.
I'll just come live.
Smash those likes.
Whenever I want a good rant. There'll be random rants all day. Ranting about the traffic.
Just completely unannounced as well, too.
Happened at work.
Just get random alerts. Oh, he's on another one.
I'll be watching Liverpool. Right?
What is it this week? Yeah.
Some sport I don't like rant.
So yeah, just quickly, we've got a match coming up in about three hours or so against Wydad of Casablanca. Now, Wydad, Casablanca, Morocco. The reason they are in this competition is because they did win Africa's equivalent of the Champions League back in 2022. Thus qualifying them for this tournament. They are one of the four teams alongside Manchester City, Juventus, and Al Ain of the UAE playing in Group G. They are our first opponents. Local kickoff time at 5 p.m. UK, and an interesting matchup because I think we're probably going to be the first ones to say we don't really have a lot of experience in terms of African clubs. I watched a little bit of. Esperance against Flamengo the other day, and then I watched a little bit of that Mamelodi Sundowns earlier today against Ulsan. African football is decent. I personally think this could be an interesting game. I don't know if you feel the same, Rich, but like anything to do with Moroccan football right now is going to be a bit of a challenge because you got to be honest, the culture in Moroccan football is on a high right now. You think about what they did in the World Cup, you think about what they did in Paris for the Olympics as well. Great. They've got fantastic players as well too. As you know, Hakimi's won a Champions League. There's a lot of things for them to play for, and things that I think they're going to make it. It's going to be an interesting matchup, to be honest.
I think it's going to be close. I think we're going to scrape through this game. I think it's just going to be something like 2-1 or something. I wouldn't even be surprised if we go behind in this game. But I think we've got enough that we should be able to get through. But I do think it's going to be tough. I think this is going to be tougher than the game next week in a way, even though people are saying this is the easy one. Because these are professional footballers, and it's an opportunity of a lifetime. So, yeah, my middle name is Rant.
How do you say rant in Welsh?
You just change it. It wouldn't have a vowel in it for a start.
It'd probably involve the last 6 letters of the alphabet in some way.
Yeah, probably Runt. But no, I think it'll be tough. I'm just absolutely fascinated with, almost if I wasn't knackered and didn't need to go and get some sleep, I think I'd be more interested in the hour before the game reading the team than the actual game.
Yeah, me too.
Because I really don't know. Are we going to see all 3 new signings in? Are we going to see none of them? Are we going to see, I'm assuming we're going to be resting Bernardo and Diaz and a few other players. So who's going to be playing?
I started Harry's comment earlier on the show as well too, and he said, do all the new signings start this evening? Now, before we answer that, we had a big old conversation while I was at work a few hours ago on WhatsApp about this, and it was kind of, I felt like I was contradicting myself because I wanted to see rotation. You do sense that there's a little bit of a pre-season about the squad rotation and choice of the lineup as well too. But I also want to see these new signings as well.
It may also depend which players put their hands up and in training and say, I want to play. So, if someone like Phil, or even Gundo, or, if they're in really good shape, because, the doctors will be a big part of this and judging their fitness. If some of the players are at their, almost at their peak fitness, they'll probably earn the right to play. And there'll probably be some of them who want to actually make, show what they can do in this environment. But it's hard to see how, we know Bernardo and Diaz. I want them rested, but we know they're completely match fit because they only played about a week ago in the final. We know
you wouldn't even call it start. You wouldn't even call it start-stop. There was not enough time between a rest.
We know that Cherky was fit enough to have a stormer for France a couple of weeks ago. So most of the players, I think, probably, whilst they've had a bit of a rest from training, they're not going to have dipped. So it's not like a pre-season where, a normal pre-season, everyone's gone off and they've had 6-8 weeks of doing absolutely nothing. The truth is that there's probably, bearing in mind they were back a week ago, there's probably a few players who did nothing for 2 weeks, but 2 weeks would not be enough to take your fitness levels down massively. They just need to be tuned up. So who knows?
Yeah, I don't get the sense of there being like a pre-season sort of style of play where it's like just when they try to up the tempo or trying to commit to that crucial pass, then a player missteps or doesn't run at the right time and the ball just goes out, something like that. I feel like they'll be very, very close to just continuing the sort of levels of form and fitness that they were basically by the time we wrapped up at Fulham a few weeks ago. So I can't see there being much of a change. There might just be the occasional miscommunication between certain players, especially maybe new signings, because they're still trying to wrap their head around how things are going to be. We've got to accept that. That's the way things are. I still personally think the player that may stand out in this competition for us may be Tijani Reinders, because I just think at his age and that experience, I just think he's got enough of a football brain that I think he'll pick it up straight away.
Yeah, I think you're perhaps putting a bit too much pressure on the lad by expecting.
It's not expecting. It's just. We've seen players come into teams at this age, and they use their football brain as much as they use their physicality.
When have you seen someone come out of Syria and storm the Premier League in that sort of role? 90% of players from Syria.
I'm not necessarily talking about the league. I'm talking about the player themselves, like the experience.
I know the player themselves, but yeah, I've seen so many. Like, genuinely, when he moved to United, I thought Juan Varane was the best midfielder in the world. Because he looked like that in Italy. And he came to United, he looked poor. Shevchenko came to the Premier League from Italy. He looked the best player in the world. Came and he looked poor in the Premier League. So I think Hernan Crespo, the same, the best players in the world.
Balotelli.
Balotelli was more off the pitch than on it.
No, I know.
What I'm saying is, history shows me that time and time again, players come from Syria and don't do well in Britain. Now, I think Reinders can be different, but I think just assuming, I think that's a hell of a lot of pressure to put on the lad coming from a league which hasn't usually worked in English football to just think he's going to hit the ground running on day one and be seamless, because I think that's very unlikely. And if everyone's expecting that, then they're going to be on his back in 2 games when he isn't, playing at that level. So no, I'm really pleased with that signing, but I think we need to give him 12 months. And then see in 26, 27 how good he is. And, hopefully it'll be November, December time he'll be flying. But, yeah, you don't go into a pet midfield and shine from day one unless you come from being trained by him in the Barcelona B Academy, and come up like Iniesta or Xavi.
Besides John Stones, who else has started in this game, mate?
Oh, how good would it be if Stone starts?
Yeah.
And doesn't get injured? That's what'll happen. Stones will start.
Do you know what? I know what'll happen. What'll happen is like we'll be in a position where we may just rotate. We might just rotate some players at about even at half time, or even maybe 50, 55 minutes in, and you'll just see that Stones, Red Arrow, and you'll be like, please don't.
To me, I was
thinking about
who do I want to start, and I'm thinking I might well be thinking, Ake and Kuzanov at centre back.
Starting because I'm still of the thought that they'll make an appearance. Because I think because I look at it, I think Ake would shut up if let's say we're 2-0 up or something like that. Ake would shut up shop, and Kuzanov would probably be able to play. Probably just be able to run rings around any attackers, especially if they're run it out of legs after about 70 minutes or so. Because let's not forget too, Wydad as well played the season the same as Europe, so they finish the same time we do. In fact, every club that's in our group follows European season. Even LA, they wrapped up like a month or two ago as well.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a factor as well. That's why part of me was like, I kind of wish we played a South American team because they would have pushed us. But then at the same time, I'm kind of glad we're not, because then it probably makes our group a little bit more easier.
Yeah, but I don't think I watched when I said I haven't watched much, I did watch a bit of PSG's game. PSG haven't lost any fitness. No, they look like they were. So I just don't think everyone's talking pre-season. I just don't think there's been enough of a rest that there's going to be a fitness issue. There might be a fitness issue with Rodri and Haaland, who weren't at match fitness at the end of the season, and a couple of other players. But I think it's going to be a free for all. Yeah, I think Dash is right. I think we might go behind, but I'm going to be asleep, so I'm going to miss the meltdown.
Well, if anybody just knows the basics about Moroccan football, is we've seen some of the footage of some of their club games and the atmospheres that those groups put up. I do hope they have a big old group coming over from Casablanca, because I tell you what, they're going to make the atmosphere electric.
It's supposed to be.
And I mean, it's disappointing because this competition's been focused on a lack of tickets, a lack of people at these grounds. But my God, if you've seen River Plate when they played Urawa yesterday, when you've seen Boca against Benfica, the atmosphere, sure, the stadium wasn't filled.
You've got a choice.
They didn't make it sound like it was empty.
You've got a choice. You either have it for European TV, or you have the crowds. You can't have both. And, the aim of this from FIFA isn't big crowds. It's to take a bit of a stand and, make, take things, put a bit of a stamp on European football from FIFA by saying we're doing this, so that you don't dominate club football, and the Champions League does dominate club football. I think this is FIFA's shot across the bows, and therefore European TV is important, not the crowds at the game. The only problem is that it doesn't look great on TV if you have 50,000 empty seats like the game at Atlanta, yesterday. But
Cisco puts an interesting perspective here. Yeah, it's like, why bother going to a 70,000 seat stadium when you can put it in 30 and fill it up? Good example for me. Good example for me was Rich was pre-season against Chelsea last season. We had they played at Ohio State Stadium, which can hold nearly 100,000. They end up getting 70,000, which is good. But they could have had it at Columbus Crew Stadium, which is like a mini. It literally is like a mini, not just because of the color, but it literally looks like a mini Borussia Dortmund ground.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
The way it was set up, and it was like you'd fill that ground up and some, and the atmosphere would be electric in there.
That's why we said before that Lang Park's the best place for a game in Australia, because it's a sellout. You go to the MCG and it's so spread out. And I've been in the MCG with 70,000 plus on day 2 or day 3 of a test match, and it feels empty, a bit dead, and it feels so 70,000 fans, and that's.
Let me ask you this, right? A hypothetical. I'll ask you this hypothetical, right? We talked about apparently Australia showing interest in hosting this tournament in 4 years' time, right? If you came to, let's say, a semi-final, I'm not going to say a final because we know a final would end up at G. If it was, say, a quarterfinal or a semi-final against, say, like a Boca Juniors or a River Plate, would you have it?
Final was going to be in Sydney if Australia got it, not Melbourne.
Okay, well, I'm using Melbourne as an example because you got three different alternatives for a venue to host, right? You've got the MCG, which will obviously get the numbers. You've got Marvel, which is probably slightly better suited to football, only slightly. Yeah. But you've got Amy Park, which is the best suited to football, but only holds 25,000. Yeah, of those three, which would you rather have that Club World Cup match? If it was Manchester City against, say, Boca Juniors?
I'd
knowing full well that place is going to be rammed with Boca fans because they travel.
I'd say Marvel.
You'd say Marvel?
Yeah.
See, I'd still lean on Amy Park.
It's just too small.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'd rather fill it than not fill it. You know.
Yeah, but if depending on, unless you played the game at stupid o'clock, you'd sell out. If you had City against Boca Juniors, you'd get close to selling it out at Marvel.
Well, you just be grumpy. You could have the game at 2 a.m. They'd still turn up.
Yeah, you'd just be grumpy that you couldn't get, like so many people wouldn't be able to get a ticket if it was at Amy Park, because by the time they'd given out 10,000 to officials of various football federations, and there'd be next to no tickets left for Australians. So, yeah, I think you play at your big grounds, and I think the final would be in Sydney. Semi-finals, maybe Brisbane and Melbourne.
You're right, Governor. They know how to party. I've been to the Bombonera, and it was unreal. If you ever get a chance, people, YouTube, Boca Independiente 5-4 in March 2012. I was sitting in the away section at La Bombonera with all the Independiente fans. Just see that game, and you'll see how crazy it was. Never mind the atmosphere. The game itself was out of control. Absolutely out of control. And I'll never experience anything like that ever again in my life. Just unreal. Yeah. Special times. But look, we've talked about before about this, possibly this FIFA Club World Cup coming to Australia in 4 years. And, I wonder if in 4 years' time, if City are there, we'll probably look at it. A lot of fans will look at it the same way as we're looking at this current tournament anyway. But I don't know. I mean, we'll take any sort of big football competition down here, especially considering I think there's a lot of a belief, and I don't know if you feel the same way, Rich, but I personally believe that no matter how hard we try, we'll never get a World Cup, because at the end of the day, we do believe that FIFA like to exploit developing countries because they know that they're willing to spend billions to get stadiums. We won't do that because we've got the ready-made infrastructure, so they know they can't get more money out of us.
Yeah, never say never. I think...
But what I'm saying is like the Women's World Cup and these Club World Cups, we'd have a better chance of getting them because it's sort of like a consolation.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're the sorts of things to push for. And I think, demonstrate a really, make it a really big step up versus the previous one. And, I think that would be good. And I'd love to see it,
Like, you imagine if River and Boca played together. Oh, especially if it's down in Florida.
The biggest problem that football would suffer if wanting to get the Club World Cup is that they are certain things like the MCG controlled by, I'm pretty sure it's controlled by AFL along with a couple of other grounds. And I reckon that there would be a push. But I reckon Rugby League would cooperate. I reckon cricket would cooperate, so I reckon Sydney would be okay. But a couple of the other big grounds in the other states, they'd be saying, no, you can't put football. We can't take a break for a week in the AFL season. It's all too important. And they would put
Victoria would be
the naked interest. And I think what would have to happen is the Australian football authorities would have to be prepared to say, we're going to have it. That case, you're going to do this. We're going to have it in Sydney, Newcastle, Brisbane, Gold Coast.
Newcastle's a good shout, by the way.
Because that's my hometown. You could have it. Newcastle would be great for football games.
Yeah. They hosted some Asian Champions League back in 2015. It was very, very good.
In Sydney, you could have games in have games at Parramatta Stadium.
Yeah.
You could have games at the SCG, at Alliance, at ANZ. So honestly, I'd be like, if AFL takes the piss in Victoria, I'd be like, fine. We'll just have all these games in Sydney and Brisbane, and the Victorian economy can take the international.
If it were my choice, Rich, I'd have the final at Suncorp, because Suncorp's the best suited for football.
It's the best for the crowd, yeah, but for TV, I don't think.
No, I mean the stadium setup itself, like.
You wouldn't
want to be putting football on the MCG. We've seen it before. Yeah. We've seen it before, and it's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, but I think you'd have, I think if you got the Club World Cup, it wouldn't take a huge amount to invest in, particularly in Allianz in Sydney to make it a little bit more enclosed and therefore a much better atmosphere.
Yeah,
it's actually not.
Foggy's got an important question for you, mate.
I will be, yeah. I'm going to 4 test matches, and yeah.
I have no idea what tickets are still left, but I'll have to suss it out anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to Adelaide, Melbourne, and Brisbane for a couple of days.
Brilliant.
It's going to be. I mean, the Ashes is going to be fascinating because it's going to be, one team with a vastly superior batting lineup against one team with a vastly superior bowling lineup.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I do think maybe in Australian conditions bowling is more important because, the batsmen will get away with a bit more. And I think there's quite a gap between England's attack at the moment and Australia's. But, I don't think many Australian players will be getting in the top 7 of the team if it was combined.
Yeah, Thunder Road, what we're getting to on this was the reports are that FIFA want to do this every 4 years, with this being the inaugural tournament. So make it, imagine it as though it's going to be the precursor to the World Cup, or the precursor summer to the World Cup. Doesn't necessarily mean that whatever country or countries host that World Cup, the Club World Cup will be there, but that's how they're basically going to set it up. I think the Club World Cup was moved to the United States because it was convenient, because they knew that they could sort of set it up on a shoestring, it hastily set it up and that sort of thing, and then they could just go from there. Because they know these countries are already setting up for a World Cup, so they can say, "Oh, while you're at it, just have this tournament as a trial, basically, as a soft trial." Yeah. Yeah.
The truth is, if you go to, England, France, Germany, the US, Australia, there's enough countries out there who've got enough big stadia that you can, have something like this event, and you've got more than enough stadia to do it. And I think we better wrap because I'm about to fall asleep.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
No, look, we've had a good chat. It doesn't take long before we start talking about the demise of Australian football. But look, it's been fun, everybody. As Martin said, we are back in about an hour and a half from now with the watch along for the match against Wydad AC. So keep an eye out for that as well. Upcoming shows, I believe we'll have a Thursday night chat. I'm working, so I probably won't be around for that one, but there is possibly a Friday night waffle as well. So I should be free for that one as well too. Of course, keep an eye out for what we're going to be doing in terms of watch-alongs for all the other fixtures as well. Rich and we are actually heading up to the Central Coast on Monday for the match against Al Ain, doing a bit of a catch-up with the original supporters group from about 30 years ago. So we're looking forward to a good catch-up there. And, of course, the 11 o'clock, the Al Ain match is 11 a.m., which for anybody who's from this part of the world knows that any time we watch City play and the sun's up, it's as rare as hen's teeth. So we're going to have a proper day out, enjoy ourselves. If we can, post some reels on our Mancunian Way social medias or on YouTube, and that will certainly share those experiences with you as well too. But until then, look, it's been a lot of fun. Episode 7 of Blues Down Under. Been enjoying running, being king of the castle today, and look forward to doing more of these. And it's been fun, Rich. Look forward to doing this again same time next week. But until then, as we said, we're probably all going to get some shut eye here. Keep an eye out for Martin. He should be on the best part of about an hour and a half. With there's Martin there. He's just posted the link as well. So please get.
And as everyone's learnt tonight, you can subscribe to Alan's OnlyFans channel. Only $99 a month.
only Van Allen's.
Yeah, he hasn't got many.
Isn't that a fantastic ROI return on investment?
Yeah, it's low return, low investment so far.
Yeah, very low.
Yeah,
and Hamza talks about standards.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, we'll leave it at that anyway.
Everyone.
So again, big up to everybody. Thank you. Look out for the watch along. We'll be on shortly. Until then, always and forever up the Blues. Let's go get this trophy. Go on, Setsy.
Come on, Blues.
Go on, Blues.